number of major companies have announced layoffs. Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, say they will lay off about 8,000 people. That's 10% of their workforce. Microsoft is reportedly planning to offer buyouts to nearly 9,000 people. And show and sportswear giant Nike also says it plans to let about 1,400 people go, primarily in their tech department.
Now, we do have a bit of breaking news that is just crossing the terminal pertaining to Meta, telling staff that it will cut about 10% of its workers in order to boost efficiency and offset its heavy spending on artificial intelligence. This 10% cut, Joe, equivalent to roughly 8,000 employees. The company also won't be hiring workers for 6,000 open roles that it had intended to fill. This is something we've been talking about. A lot of these major tech companies investing heavily in artificial intelligence, a lot of capital expenditures. The market hasn't always taken kindly to that notion. And now Meta obviously taking steps to potentially offset where they're spending money on technology, not spending as much money on personnel.
Interesting. You typically see a positive stock reaction when layoffs are announced because we're cutting costs, but Meta shares are decidedly lower, down about 2.5% right now, $657. Remembering this is a stock that was trading near $800 back in August of 2025. Ed Ludlow is standing by to help us once again with a breaking news story. Of course, the co-host of Bloomberg Tech and steeped in all things Meta. Ed, what do you make of this decision? You and I were just talking about the increased levels of CapEx spending that all of these hyperscalers are embroiled in. What does this mean for Meta?
Yeah, you guys summed it perfectly. Prioritizing the spending of infrastructure over the spending of headcount. And, you know, this has been reported, right? So what you see in the stock might be a little bit of a sell the news kind of reaction. The moment the headlines hit, we were down 2.5%. There was an algo spike pairing those declines, and now we're back down 2.5%. Cuts are effective May 20th. You know, there's an element of accounting here because Meta's going to have to pay those that are eliminated or have their roles eliminated 16 weeks of severance pay effective May 20th. But remember, you know, the political story here is Mark Zuckerberg sitting alongside the president of the United States saying, oh, I shall spend $600 billion in the United States of America to reindustrialize AI infrastructure in this country over a 3-year period. And so that's the sort of political side of the story, but their capital expenditure commitment for the year is size large.
Microsoft, Meta cutting thousands of jobs at the same time as they allocate billions towards AI compute. In fact, in the memo that Meta sent out about the 8,000 jobs that are going to be going, 10% of the workforce, and about 6,000 roles that won't be filled, they call it offsetting the investment that they have to make elsewhere by pulling back on expenditure on people. I mean, Microsoft is saying to 7% of its workforce, look, you can take early retirement. These are very generous packages, but it's got to sting a little bit on the same day as they see an $18 billion AI infrastructure deal inked with Australia and Microsoft. This is a reallocation of resources. And this is why the general public are getting ever more fearful and downright angry about artificial intelligence because they see it as an offset to us. Do you feel like that? Or are you seeing that actually there's more opportunity, abundance, potential to create new things using AI and see new jobs created? I hear that argument a lot. But I also hear the short-term temporary dislocation in the work market is going to be really tough to process. And reskilling has got to be put front and center. Let me know what you think about the latest news.
So Meta just made a move that could signal where the entire tech job market is going. Well, we're talking layoffs of about 10% of its staff starting May 20th. That equates to roughly 8,000 people that are currently at the company. Plus, they're going to put a hiring freeze on 6,000 open roles. And what I'm hearing from my sources, the reasoning for Meta is simple. Become more efficient and double down on AI. And by the way, this is also the first major round of cuts that we've seen since CEO Mark Zuckerberg declared the year of efficiency. That was back in 2023. So what does this all mean? Well, it could be the start of a new trend in tech. Remember, we had that big COVID hiring boom, and then tech companies had to go lay off a bunch of people because they had overhired. Well, now it looks like we might be entering a phase where the layoffs are driven by an AI-first shift. Because here's the reality. These tech giants, they need to keep spending billions of dollars on AI. Meta alone, by the way, is expected to spend up to $135 billion this year on AI alone. But these companies also need to keep proving to investors that they can still make money. And right now, most AI initiatives aren't profitable. And so one of the fastest ways to show your investors that you are disciplined, I used to see this all the time in the corporate world and when I worked in consulting, you cut costs. And in this case, that means people.
Meta is about to cut 8,000 workers on May 20th while pouring billions into AI infrastructure. And this says a lot about the future of tech and what Meta is building. According to Reuters, this is the first wave of a 10% global workforce reduction, with more cuts possible later in 2026 as the company continues a massive internal restructuring. And the money tells us the rest of the story. Meta's 2026 capex guidance is between 115 and 135 billion, and their broader US infrastructure plan runs to about $600 billion through 2028. Clearly, this is not a company that's running out of cash anytime soon. This story is more about where that cash is going. They're choosing to spend on chips, data centers, and AI infrastructure rather than keeping human teams intact. Mark Zuckerberg has already suggested that AI may let one very talented person, quote, do the work of an entire team.
Sometime in the next 12 to 18 months, we'll reach the point where like most of the code that's going towards these efforts is written by AI. And I don't mean like autocomplete. I mean, right today you have kind of, good autocomplete, like you start writing something and it can complete the kind of section of code. I'm talking more like you give it a goal, it can run tests, right? It can kind of improve things. It can find issues. It writes higher quality code than like the average very good person on the team already.
So you tell me, if a company has billions of dollars for AI and no room for 8,000 workers, what does that mean for the rest of us? If this is the future of Meta and the future of tech, who's getting left behind? Drop your take.
Okay, so there was a leak that Meta is preparing to cut 20% of their workforce. That's 16,000 people. Do you understand how many people 16,000 people actually is? It's Sedona, Arizona. It's Breckenridge, Colorado. It's St. Augustine, Florida. It's the size of towns with high schools, Friday night football games, farmers markets, fire stations, coffee shops where the barista knows your order and your dog's name. That is not a layoff, okay? That's erasing an entire community population of people. And they call it a business decision. And this isn't just Meta, right? It's Southwest, it's Intel, it's Microsoft, it's Walmart, it's Verizon, it's Amazon, it's UPS, it's Citigroup, one after another, quarter after quarter. And we're supposed to keep absorbing this information like it's normal. It's not normal. And like, what do 16,000 people do when they get that mass email about losing their job? Well, they do what the rest of us have had to do all along. Update the resume, log back into job boards, start applying. And here's the problem. You have a 1% chance of landing a job from a cold application, okay? Not 10%, not 5%, 1%. That is scratch ticket odds. That's getting struck by lightning odds. That's, you actually have a better chance of getting bit by a shark in your lifetime odds, okay? The 9 to 5 isn't stable. That's a lie we've been told, okay? Corporate jobs are not stable. The thing that was supposed to be a safe bet that controlled our entire existence is the thing that's laying off towns full of people. And I think about this a lot lately, and I have so much to say.
New York Magazine just asked, does anybody have a plan for what's going on with all of the layoffs due to AI? They're asking a lot of political officials. They have many different points of view. I don't think anybody really knows what to conceptually do yet. With that being said, Meta and Microsoft just said that they're laying off about 23,000 people. They're doing some buyouts, but they are saying that the jobs that they get rid of, they are not hiring again for because they've dumped so much money into the AI environment. And all of that money is going to AI, not going to actual employees. What do you guys think? 2026, eh? What a bitch.
Meta just fired 10% of their employees to be replaced with AI. Yes, this is real. This just happened today. 8,000 people just canned, just like that. And you still think that job security is a real thing. All these people were working their 9 to 5s for this massive company. We all know Meta, Facebook. All these people worked really hard, went to college, got their degree, put themselves in 6 figures of debt, and now, boom, just like that, gone. We are in an unprecedented economy, an unprecedented job market. You need to be putting yourself in a position where you don't have to rely on somebody else's company to survive. Work for yourself, do things that build up real skills that nobody can take away from you and nobody can just fire you from. I've been doing a type of social media marketing called UGC. I've been landing a lot of deals through the SideShift app, and I'm providing real value with my skills to these companies. I'm not just another worker for them. Look into that if you want, but the point is, I'm not just another body to these companies to, send emails and type in Excel, stuff that anybody can be trained to do. But if you thought getting your degree and getting that 9-to-5 with job security was going to work out for you long term, you might want to reconsider, because it looks like that's not the direction we're headed in.
Well, we hit the corporate trifecta news this morning with 3 more companies announcing mass layoffs. They may not seem as much as the 30,000, but these things are all starting to add up. So who are the companies today? Meta announcing a 10% reduction of their company, which I think is 8,000 people they're anticipating in May. So not much of a warning to go find your next opportunity. Microsoft with another 8,000 folks, and then also Nike announcing 1,400 layoffs in their technical division. Again, I think this is just accelerating, and again, I think the bigger trend we're going to see to the negative for folks still trying to ride out corporate is the cutting of benefits. It's going to start slow, right? They're going to test the waters, but like Deloitte, even though I pointed out in the column that in the comments that Deloitte's not a corporation per se, but again, people work there and their benefits were cut. So you can call it semantics, whether it's a big corporate or not. It's going to take one of these, Amazon's, Microsoft, Oracle, or somebody to cut benefits, and then the rest are going to figure out, hey, there's a path there to save another $1 billion of expense. Again, in lieu of people, they're going to take the profits every day, all day, and when I wake up in the morning and see the headlines that we got 3 more big companies, just reducing people, it's just a good reminder that if you're counting on corporate, right, if you're banking on corporate, it's not a good idea. Because even if you do survive layoffs in the short term, the bigger challenge, what we're seeing is the folks that can't find a new job, right? Especially if you're experienced, Gen Xer, elder millennials or boomers, trying to find that next opportunity. I think only like 10% of folks over the age of 50 found another job that paid them what their previous job paid. So even if you do find something, it's probably not going to be work you like, and it's not going to be the pay that you want or need. And again, this isn't all doom and gloom. It's just a reminder that you can control your future, right? I built my career being reactive and building it around a corporate job and a corporate title, but 6 years ago corporate made the decision for me, but I ran and took advantage of it, took my control, took my future back. So again, these are reminders that don't get comfortable and really have a plan B in mind. So on this Friday, if you're still in corporate, good luck.
I know I can't be the only person who's noticed this, but it seems like corporate America right now is completely cooked. Every week I'm reading about a major layoff. Meta, Amazon, Oracle, all laying off thousands of people. Last year, there were over 1.5 million layoffs, which is so crazy. But it just seems like right now, if most of your job is done on a laptop, companies are trying to figure out ways to basically replace you with AI. It's why I advise parents to get their kids to go into the trades or go into healthcare, because it seems like those are the 2 places where there's a shortage of workers and they need people to go in. But if you're working in HR or marketing or sales or any of those other corporate jobs, it really just seems like it's a matter of time before you get laid off. If your team isn't getting smaller and you're not getting more work, it's gonna come. It's gonna happen. I'm predicting we're gonna see way more layoffs in 2026 than we did in 2025. And in 2025, we saw over 1 million. It's just really, really hard right now, and I think if you're on the job search, you know what I'm talking about. If you do get laid off, it's brutal. You have to apply to thousands of jobs. You get ghosted. A lot of times you make it through to final interviews, and then the role gets canceled. It's absolutely crazy right now.
Shares are now up 3.68%.
All right, some breaking news. So 2 of the biggest tech companies in the world just made major moves. And if you work in tech or know someone who does, Pay attention. Meta, the company that owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, just announced it is laying off 8,000 workers. That's 10% of its entire global workforce. The cuts start May 20th, and here's the part that should make everyone think. They're also canceling 6,000 job openings they plan to fill. So it's not just about cutting people, they're shrinking the table. Why? Meta is spending up to $135 billion on AI this year, nearly double what it spent last year, and the message is clear. They're replacing human labor cost with AI infrastructure. Meanwhile, Microsoft also today just announced a voluntary retirement buyout for up to 8,750 of its U.S. employees. First time in 51 years the company has done this. The AI spending boom is reshaping the workforce in real time. Now, these aren't just corporate decisions, these are signals. The AI era isn't coming. It's already restructuring who gets a job and who doesn't. The question isn't whether AI will change work. The question is, are you ready? Well, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Don't forget to like, share, and follow for more important updates and news that affect you.